Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to give it just a minute here to make sure everyone can join and get settled in. My name is Amy Arno, and I'm coming to you from the XYPN office here in beautiful Bozeman, Montana. It is gorgeous today, sunny, hopefully not windy. We've been getting a lot of that. I will say it did snow this last weekend, so I feel like we are owed this nice weather finally. So yes, we are grateful to be in Bozeman, and I'm grateful to be here with all of you. Now that we're just a little bit past the hour, I think I'll officially get us going. So, as I mentioned, my name is Amy, and I'm the Director of Sapphire Growth at XYPN Sapphire. And today I'm excited to host this webinar and present on Is XYPN Sapphire right for you? So, today we are going to cover quite a bit about XYPN and everything that we have to offer at Sapphire, the ins and outs of what's included, what the structure is, what it costs, and how to decide if it might be the right fit for you. So lots to cover. I will try to take breaks to remember to pause for questions because it is going to be a lot of material. So if you do have something you want me to address, then please put it in the Q&A and I will address them as we go along as much as possible. And then we'll save some time at the end for questions as well. So, just a quick background about me. I have been at XYPN for just over 6 years. I was on the Emerald side. We didn't used to call it Emerald then. It was just like XY Planning Network. And then this year in January, I came over to Sapphire in this role as Director of Sapphire Growth to focus on folks that are considering Sapphire and help them make that decision. So it's been great. Sapphire has been such a fun team to join. And so I'm excited to share with you all exactly what we can do for you. So, Maddie, I'm just going to ask you if you will Slack me questions. That might be a little bit easier for me to look on my phone. Maddie's my lovely ghost host today. So she will be dropping resources for us as well. One quick note before we launch into everything is that we do always have upcoming events at XYPN, both for Emerald and Sapphire. And so we'll put a link in the chat to find those, lots of virtual and in-person ones if you want to join us. Also, at the end of this session, once you exit, you will see a survey pop up from Zoom. So please let us know how we did. If you have things that you want to hear about, especially from Sapphire in the future, we would love to know that and get that coordinated for you. So here we go. Okay, so to start, what is XYPN Sapphire? So Sapphire is an option for entrepreneurship where you will own your own business, you own your clients, you own all your data, you bring your own branding, you'll have your own website, but ultimately you are affiliated with our SEC registered RIA. So a requirement to join Sapphire is that you are fee only, and by affiliating with us versus launching your own firm, registering your own RIA in your state or with the SEC, then you get to give us the administrative tedious items. So we will handle your compliance, your back office, your investment management, and then also provide you with a top of the line tech stack. And so just really frees you up to focus on the reasons that you want to be a financial advisor, which is to work with clients, to focus on financial planning, to make investment management recommendations without having to implement them yourself. So just an option to really free up your time while utilizing the infrastructure that we've built at Sapphire. So what this looks like in practice then is that we have the SEC registered RIA. You become affiliated as an IAR of our RIA. I don't know why they ran out of letters for all of this, but that's okay. And then you will come to Sapphire with a legal entity formed, and then you are an independent contractor of Sapphire. So you'll receive a 1099. You sign an independent contractor agreement with us when you join. And then all of the revenue that you generate for your firm first comes to Sapphire, and then we pay you back your share, which at Sapphire is 80%. So it comes to Sapphire first and then goes to the revenue, or excuse me, to the entity. And then from your entity, you pay yourself, your bills, and any employees that you have from that. So that gets you access to everything at Sapphire. So specifically, want to talk about that cost a little bit more. So this investment, so we have the 20% of gross revenue share that you're paying, and then you're also going to pay a flat platform fee of 1,500 a month. So that is paid on the first of every month, and you'll pay that from ACH or from credit cards. And so that helps us to work with folks that maybe aren't transitioning a book of business. Sometimes it can be harder to find an affiliation model that is willing to do that because obviously they're not necessarily making money right away if they only charge on a percentage of gross revenue. So having this 1,500 a month fee then gives us flexibility to do that, where we can still cover the technology and the hours, of helping you get started or transitioned over. And then as you scale and your needs become more complex, then that 20% of gross revenue helps us keep pace with you on the team capacity side. So we're still able to service you as much as needed. And so the revenue share does apply to all revenue streams. So financial planning fees, if you do a subscription, if you do hourly, and AUM. So sometimes there is confusion around that of like, if I only charge a percentage of AUM, is that what you take a gross revenue percentage of? And the answer is no, it's for everything. So what exactly does that get you? So the platform fee includes all of your technology, and we're going to talk in depth about each of these items. So it includes all of your technology. It includes your compliance. We have a dedicated compliance team here and a chief compliance officer. It includes all of your investment management, your back office support, billing, bookkeeping for your firm specifically, E&O insurance, and then we have a custodial relationship at Schwab. So let's start with technology. So what is included then for technology is kind of two different options. Oh, I'm going to pause real quick to answer a question. Does the 20% of gross revenue include payment processing fees from client billing, or is that additional? So we use Advice Pay for anything that's not AUM. So there's no AUM percentage fees to my knowledge. I'll double check on that while we're visiting here. But for Advice Pay specifically, there are fees for ACH and credit card payments. It's 1% for ACH, and then it is 2.9% for credit cards, I think plus 30 cents. And so this is a little confusing, but because of the relationship, so you cover 80% of the Advice Pay fees, and XYPN covers 20%. So there's a little bit of a split of the fees that clients pay. So and we can talk more about what that looks like in practice, but that is how that is split up. So yes, there are fees. It does not include them fully, but we do pay a percentage of them as well. Okay, so for the technology, so we have some core tools that are required, and I'm gonna back up to say everything is included. There are some core tools that are required, and they are required because our team is also working in them. We're gonna go through those next. Then you get to choose one financial planning tool. And then we also have add-ons. So they are still included in the cost of your membership, but depending on your service model, they may not be necessary for you. So you're welcome to pick one of them, all of them, doesn't matter. It's all fully included depending on what fits best for your business. And then we're going to talk a little bit about tools that aren't necessarily part of that tech stack. So for what the core tools are, for a CRM, we require WealthBox Pro. And then we do Orion for portfolio accounting and a client portal. For document storage and client file sharing, we use Box. For compliance monitoring, we use Hadrius. And so Hadrius, if you're not familiar with it, you honestly really won't be working in there much. It's really for our compliance team to get done what they need to for you, specifically for archiving and for review of communication. So we'll talk more about that, believe it or not. And then also Advisor Armor. So for Advisor Armor, that's something that lives on your computer. It's called an applet. And so it does cybersecurity protection and monitoring. And then just make sure that basic security measures are in place, that we have decided we need, or that we need to be in compliance with the SEC, and make sure that your computer is protected. So those are all the ones that we require, and you can't change those out, or use anything in additional. Like if you're used to Redtail, I get this question a lot of like, can I use Redtail and Wealthbox? And just because of compliance, we can't do that. So these ones are the only options for these specific functions that we require you to use. Next, we have 3 financial planning tools as an option: eMoney Pro, then Money Guide Pro, and Right Capital Premium. So you can pick one of these. And then as add-ons, we have these are, as I mentioned, you can pick one, you can pick all of them for no additional cost to your membership. So Precise FP, which is for client data gathering and can integrate and push out data to wherever that data needs to be updated. Holistiplan Premium, which is for tax planning and analysis. FP Pathfinder, which offers decision trees as you think about the planning options for a client. Y charts, which is great for portfolio management, for investment research and client reporting. And just a quick note on Y charts, the free tier is included. The basic tier is included. So the basic tier is included, and then upgrades are discounted. So versus retail. So I think the next tiers are presenter and professional, and with our discounts, it's about half off of those tiers versus retail. It's really the only item in the the tech stack, where those upgraded options are not fully included. And then also advice pay. So I mentioned this earlier, that we accept credit cards and ACH payments for one-time retainer or subscription invoices. And so that is through advice pay. So if that is part of your service model, then that technology is included as well. And then we did get a question about, is Elements no longer available as an option? So I think we're working through this, if we're going to continue to offer Elements. So I didn't include it today, because it's just a bigger conversation than I had with our transition team. So if you want to email me, we can include my email at the end and I'll get you an update on that. Okay, here we go. Next. Then, in terms of other outside tools, so we all have probably an AI note taker that we love today. And there's, of course, many other options like Calendly or Zoom Phone, things that make your life easier for technology that you love. So those options, we already have a pre-vetted list, which we do keep updated. So as you have something that you want to bring with you or that you want to adopt as a member of Sapphire, then you are welcome to check that list. One of the nuances usually of technology is that it generally needs to be like a business subscription versus a personal or free option to have the level of compliance security that we need for it to be an option for folks. So if you have any questions about that, we have details within membership. But if you don't see something on that already pre-vetted list, then our compliance team is always available to review it and do the research required to see if it would be possible for you to use. So you can actually request that through Hadrius, through that compliance manager. So you'll just submit the request of what you're interested in. Our team will do the due diligence on it and then let you know if that's going to be possible or what specific tier you need to adopt for it to be allowed. So always willing to look at those for you. Just one note about that is that it is your responsibility to set it up and cover it. So as part of your onboarding to Sapphire, one of the services that we offer as part of that transition is getting your technology, set up and white labeled on your behalf, with your brand identity and with your logo. So if it's something that is not part of the tech stack that I mentioned, then getting it set up and white labeled to you, would be your responsibility. And then obviously then you'll pay for it as well. So just want to make a quick note about the pricing for membership is that the 1,500 a month plus 20% of gross revenue is a firm level cost. So as you bring on additional folks, or if you're coming to Sapphire with employees, then the cost for them to join is already included in that. There is no additional cost. So, and that would include all of the technology. So if you are going to have multiple users of eMoney, multiple users of Holistiplan, that is all included in the 1,500 a month plus 20% of gross revenue. So really keeps pricing simple as your firm grows, and helpful as, of course, as you're planning for budgeting as your firm grows as well, because it is all inclusive that way. So I'm going to check in real quick about technology because I know that was a lot of information. Give us a second to see if we have any questions about that, because I know that was a lot of info. Okay, looks like we're good. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about compliance. So, of course, folks that have worked at a firm or are thinking about launching a firm, compliance, it can feel intimidating. It's definitely one of the most time-consuming, especially as you're getting registered, pieces of launching and owning a firm. It's also one of the first things that people are excited to give up when they transition to Sapphire, because as your firm grows and gets more complex, of course, so does compliance. So, what a huge benefit to coming to Sapphire is the SEC registration. There are many states that are more difficult to do business in from a regulation standpoint or from a registration standpoint, especially. So, affiliating with the SEC registered firm, get rid of all that right out the bat. So, what does Sapphire manage then for you? So we're going to do all the regulatory filings. So the state notice filings, your ADV updates. So, when you are a part of an SEC registered firm, then we will notice file in the state that you live in, as well as any of the states where your clients live. And so that service, of course, and the cost for that is all included in membership. We don't nickel and dime you for those fees by any means. So that's all included. Annual ADV updates we handle, of course, at the firm level. And then for your specific ADV Part 2A and 2B, that's also included. We do, as part of like SEC requirements, annual practice reviews. Generally, sometimes they're longer than annual. Sometimes they can be more frequent depending on the complexity of your firm. But Buddy is our CCO, and he's always going to make that very straightforward and not a burden to you by any means. So really, the being proactive about compliance is our job, and then we let you know if we need anything from you. In terms of the marketing review, and the cybersecurity policy monitoring, so I mentioned that advisor Armor, and so that for cybersecurity is going to run in the background really. So on your laptop or your tablet or wherever you are doing work, then it goes and just makes sure that you're following the protocol that we've set forward. So that could be like having a 12-character password on your laptop, or making sure that if you've been active for a minute, it goes to a screensaver. So it just looks for things like that, and then if it finds something that is out of policy, it tells you what it found and then how to fix it. So it makes that really straightforward. In terms of marketing review, so we really try not to slow you down. I'm sure everyone coming from working at a firm or broker-dealer has experienced it, where you've wanted to do a LinkedIn post and then it's something that's viral, and then 3 weeks later they finally get you back with the permission to post it. And so we don't operate that way at Sapphire. There are several things that you'll need to get pre-approval for, best practice when you're launching a website, or when if you receive a reward reward or going to post testimonials, or if you write a book, those are things that you'd want to, we would require pre-approval for. Other than that, if it's, sending an email, of course, or doing a LinkedIn post, then Hadrius is actually going to help us with that. So you just link your accounts, and which you'll do for archiving and then for our post review system. So if you linked on, or excuse me, if you post on LinkedIn, then we'll get a notification that you have posted in Hadrius. We'll go take a look at it, make sure the language is right. And then if we did find something that needed to be adjusted, we would just let you know that directly of what we wanted it to be changed to. So won't slow you down by any means, and makes it really easy to continue to run your business in a compliant way. And then if, Sapphire gets audited, you might not know, we would handle all of that. So really take all of the compliance burdens off. We're definitely a compliance first firm and want to have like a culture of compliance, but we make it easy to do that for you. Some of the things that you'd be required to do. So having the technology that I mentioned, of course, disclosing outside business activities, keeping your client records accurate, and then if something does change significant with your firm, letting us know. Also staying on top of attestations, which we facilitate. So you would get like an email from Hadrius, and then it would say like this language in the policy and procedure manual changed. Like please review and attest that you reviewed it. So it's really basic stuff like that. So you should never have a feeling of like, A, compliance is slowing me down, or B, what should I be doing right now for compliance? We'll make it straightforward for you and we'll make it very manageable. So it's good to know that compliance, you can rest easy knowing that compliance is taken care of on your behalf. Okay, I'm going to check and see if we've got any questions about compliance. Okay, so are all Orion fees included in the 1500 20% model? So for the most part, if you've looked at Emerald, and there's different tiers of what's available for free versus what's discounted, and so those tiers don't exist at Sapphire. There are some specific things they're very niche in terms of investment management. If you're doing like direct sleeves in Orion, sometimes there may be an additional cost for that. So we could discuss your specific situation and talk about if there might be any additional fees for Orion. For the most part, all fees are included in that membership cost. And then does Sapphire include a cybersecurity insurance as well? So we do include your E&O insurance, which I'm going to talk a little bit about here in a minute, and that does have a cybersecurity component to it. So E&O is included, and that has cybersecurity as well. Okay. Moving on from compliance, now we're going to talk about investment management. So investment management, of course, can be very administrative. So we have a team to do portfolio management on your behalf. So what you get access to then as a Sapphire member is XYPN proprietary models. So our investment management team has 2 CFA charter holders as well as a full-time trader, and so they are responsible for the research, for the recommendations of models, for building those models, and so you'll have access to that team. So they build and maintain those proprietary models and make changes as needed. So you'll have access to those. You'll also have access to third-party models through BlackRock and DFA. Also SMAs, we do third-party managers for that, direct indexing there, and then alternatives through iCapital through Schwab. So really, if it's available at Schwab and is fee only, for the most part, we can facilitate that. Once someone is transitioned to XYPN, I will back up to say, if you're transitioning to Sapphire with a book of business and your clients have specific needs, for example, if someone comes in and has a concentrated holding of Amazon stock that they do not want sold, then very open to that conversation. We'll never make you do something that's not right for the client. So you can always dictate terms around what happens as someone is transitioning in. So we'll never force you to put someone in a model just because you've come to XYPN. So very willing to work to make sure that we and you are serving your clients in the way that's best for them. Once someone is transitioned or new to Sapphire, then we do handle all of the day-to-day portfolio management on your behalf. So trading, rebalancing, tax loss harvesting, cash management, that's all included. We monitor daily for those needs and make sure that those needs are met. We do allow custom models at Sapphire. That does come when you are at 30 million on the platform. So once you hit that threshold, it's really just a capacity management function for Sapphire to have that threshold. Then you're welcome to build your own custom models. You are responsible for the due diligence and the documentation around those models. Obviously, our team wants to be able to address and discuss the rationale behind the models that you built and why you recommend them. So that's just an important piece of that puzzle, being able to offer custom models. And then, yeah, our team is in-house. They do all their research on their own, as I mentioned. And so you can really trust in them. Also, use them as trusted advisors. They offer they do market commentary every month. Joe and Andrew, who are our CFA charter holders, are launching a podcast tomorrow, which is going to be about investment management, which is going to be great. And then we do office hours every month with investment management. And then if you do have, if you've got like a new client that or a prospect that you're talking to that has a really complex situation and you want the team to get on the phone, they're always willing to have that conversation if that might be a good fit for them to join you. So they really are a member of your team and excited to share their expertise with you. So for investment management, what you are responsible for then is you will do a risk assessment for your client to determine what model recommendation you want to make. And then based on that risk assessment, of course, recommend the model. And then we have an investment policy statement structure. So you'll do an IPS for all new clients and for clients that you're transitioning over, which becomes then like the source of truth for us for that client and serving their needs as best we can. And so you'll fill out that IPS for them. And then if there was something specific, maybe that the IPS didn't ask for, although it's very comprehensive, but then you could include that as well. Or if something changes, if someone is they need an additional $10,000 for their daughter's wedding or their son's wedding. And so if you want to have more, if there's a one-off situation, then you submit the request for that, and then we implement what needs to be done then based on your recommendation there. So that is your role in investment management, but you still very much get to stay in, of course, the client conversation and discussing what's best for their long-term goals and how our models can fit in to their long-term plan for financial planning. So what questions do we have about? Okay. I say someone asked what about bond ladder, muni bonds, US Treasuries, for example. Of course, I knew someone was going to ask me a question I didn't know, but that's okay. Let me see if I can get Andrew, he's the Director of Investment Services, to answer that while we're on. If not, I'm sure we can facilitate something like that, or Andrew will talk to me about what we do that accomplishes a similar goal. So again, if you want, we're going to put my email and a link to book a call with me at the end. So you're welcome to do that. And then I'll make sure I get all of these questions answered. And then, how would Sapphire benefit me if I want to take time off, say a 3-week vacation with the family, for example? Great question. We are going to talk about that. I will address it really quick. So, if you do want to be out of office, then your clients are welcome to work directly with us. So, in general, the default is you are the mediator between your clients and with us. So, if you have a request, if someone needs to change a beneficiary, you submit the request. We do the task, update you when it's done, and then you tell them that it's been completed. But if if you're out of office and they have like a cashiering request or a money moving request, straightforward ones, then they can email the team directly while you're out of office, and we would take care of that in your behalf. Of course, if they're like, hey, I want to buy a $500,000 house in cash on Wednesday. That's not something like, can you do the analysis for me? Obviously, that's not a good fit for that, but we want to make sure that you have the coverage that you need while you're out of office for those basic admin, portfolio management, and back up office tasks so you can really step away and then know that if it were an emergency that we would contact you directly to get your input so you're not constantly checking your phone of like, oh, do they need me? Do they need me? Like you're going to be able to actually disconnect. Okay. I think we're good on questions for a minute. So back office support. So of course, always with the custodian, that's a headache for firm owners of getting on the phone to resolve things, not just with Schwab, with any custodian, it's an issue. And so we will get on the phone on your behalf and resolve anything that needs to be done directly with Schwab. And so we also will do, these are just some of the basics of what we do. There's much more that we do, but wanted to provide a few concrete examples. So in turn, we'll do account openings, rollovers. If we need to, as I mentioned, like change basic information about someone, then that's all included. All your training tasks are included, and then that sabbatical and vacation coverage. So there's much more. The way that it works with the team is that we have a service hub. And so for all of your requests for back office, then you'll go to that service hub, submit the request, and you are responsible for, having that information on hand. So if it's like opening a new account, you need all that account, the client information, submit that request, then that goes to Wealth Box. So let's say it's Tom and Mary Smith. We open up a task in Wealth Box for Tom and Mary. And then we keep you updated in that. So we would say, the DocuSign went out to Tom and Mary, and then we received Tom's signature, but we haven't received Mary's yet. Could you reach out to Mary? And then we would get, once it's complete, then we let you know that it's complete. So you can take that off your list. And then we use Box then, as I mentioned, for all of that client file sharing and as the source of truth for all client information. So that's where a lot of your time then working with the team is going to be is in Box, Wealth Box, and the Service Hub. And then you can always call or email the team as well. If there's something that you want to discuss that's more complex or urgent, don't feel like there's never going to be a real person on that other end. We want the experience to be as streamlined for you and as seamless as possible. And if that means doing a phone call, then we're glad to do a phone call with you to make sure we get everything resolved for you. So the back office support is huge, of course. And then we'll do billing on your behalf. And so all the revenue that you generate for your firm, we will bill that for you. So there's really one core thing that is required, and we want you to bill in arrears and then either monthly or quarterly. And then we can offer some flexibility outside of that in terms of how you structure your fees. So we can do a flat fee every month. You can do hourly. You can do one-time planning fees. And then for investment management, you can do flat, tiered, or linear. You can do fixed dollar amount or a percentage of AUM. In general, our folks don't charge more than 1.5% AUM, but you do have a lot of leverage here in terms of how you structure your fees to match your service model and to fit the needs of the niche that you want to serve. So you're also welcome. Some people when they're transitioning, they want to have legacy pricing for their clients that are coming with them, but then have a new fee structure for their new clients. We can facilitate nuances like that. So really lots of options, which you don't always get at another RIA. So we want to provide that flexibility. Just gonna take a quick break, see if there's any questions about billing. Okay. Another service that is included is bookkeeping. So the actual your actual QuickBooks Online subscription is included, and then the service for bookkeeping is included. So every month, our bookkeeping team will reconcile your expenses. So, you'll have your chart of accounts, you'll have your accounts connected where revenue is coming in and coming out. Can be multiple accounts if that's necessary, checking, a couple credit cards, however that looks for you. Our team will then reconcile those each month so that everything's always up to date. So if at any point you need to pull in a profit and loss or a balance sheet, then that information is always up to date for you. And then, of course, we all say this, that we're going to stay up on our bookkeeping. And then when you have to do your taxes, then you're trying to cram 6 months of bookkeeping in. So you can let that go, because we will always have those up to date for you. Okay, and then E&O insurance, we covered on this briefly. We are in the process of renewing our E&O insurance, so we'll have more info to come. If at any point as you're working with me on considering joining Sapphire, then I'm happy to share our full E&O insurance policy as part of your due diligence if that's helpful. So this covers, an error or omission in the delivery of your services. We talked a little bit about that cybersecurity, that's also included. And then we do have just a disclaimer that, yes, if there was a claim specifically that exceeded the coverage limit, then we would look at that of like, who does that come to the advisor or the firm? Always depending on circumstances. Like, isn't that always the answer? Is it depends. But yes, if you want to know more about specifically the E&O insurance option at Sapphire, reach out and we can look at that together. And then custody at Schwab. So we currently, this is the only option for a custodial service at Schwab. We are looking at adding a second custodian and just don't know when or if that will happen or who it will be. But we know that that is important to some folks, is to have options here. So very much on our radar and something that we're working towards. And so with our relationship at Schwab, we are supported by Schwab's enterprise service team. There's tons of, we chose Schwab because we have a long-standing relationship with them. They also just have so many options. And so really there is a lid for every pot at Schwab. And so we're grateful to have the flexibility there that we do. We do, of course, have some other options. There's a nuance to this of we can do 401k management, and that's through a third-party manager, PCS retirement. I mentioned SMAs at third parties, Nuveen, Parametric, and DFA. So, it's kind of like custody at Schwab only with an asterisk for those other options that are third party managed. I'm going to take a pause again to check for any questions if we've got them. Okay, so what else then is included in membership? So that was a lot of nuts and bolts of what your day-to-day is going to look like, what's included in that cost of membership, but that's not everything. There's also some other benefits to being a Sapphire member that are kind of part of the broader XYPN ecosystem. So if you've looked at Emerald at all, there's some other discounts on technology, for Gusto and Your Stake and Data Points. So if there's many more. So if there is a technology that you're interested in that receives a discount through Emerald, you would also receive that discount. So you do get all of that as well. Sapphire advisors do get a free pass to either a retreat or a conference that is hosted by XYPN. So you can pick one. This year we're doing a leadership intensive. We actually just did that last week. And then an XYPN retreat. And then of course we have our annual conference, XYPN Live, which everyone should come to. It's in San Diego in September 28th through the 1st. So everyone come to that. But you can pick one then and get your pass to that event paid for as a Sapphire member. Of course, the community of advisors, there's many ways to connect with advisors at XYPN. So at Emerald, are close to 2,300 members. And then at Sapphire, we have 44 firms and I think 57 IARs. So you'll have the big, broad network of advisors to connect with. And then, of course, the smaller community of Sapphire advisors as well. There's lots of ways that advisors engage with each other. We do mastermind study groups. We have our member forums, which is just a place for members to ask questions, share information with each other. And just really one of the greatest parts about XYPN is how advisors connect and support each other, which you don't always get at the firm you're working at or wouldn't get necessarily as a solo entrepreneur. So really great option for folks there. And then we do also include a coaching session with your Sapphire membership, where you can talk about anything that you want to bounce some ideas off of Arlene Moss, our executive business coach, talk about how to work on your business or what goals you want to achieve, how to set goals for your firm. So lots of ways then to use that free session as well. Okay, so all those benefits, lots of benefits. Okay, so what makes Sapphire different? So there's many things about what makes Sapphire special. And we started Sapphire because it was requested by our Emerald members, and there just was a space in the industry to create something where someone could own their own business without having to do everything in their business. And so what makes us different is, not being private equity or VC backed. There's different goals for companies that have that kind of funding, an exit strategy, of course, shareholders, and then an interest in how quickly you grow or how much business you come to the RIA with. So without us having that, gives us a lot of flexibility of who we work with and also what our long-term goals are. Of course, we see so much in the space, aggregation of firms at a wild pace, which is disrupting for you and your family and also for your clients and their families. So having the long-term stability of a company that does not have that kind of money is super helpful for you and planning for your life. Also no AUM and oh my gosh, AUM minimums. I did touch on this earlier. That this is important of, if you want to come to a firm like Sapphire and you have to start from scratch, whether it's because you're breaking away or it's because you don't want to bring the clients with you that you were working with, then we're able to facilitate that relationship because of how our pricing is structured and because of what we want for people. I mean, really, we want you to grow the firm that is your vision and is best for your life. And so that's how we've structured XYPN for our employees, and that's how we want to structure Sapphire for you. So start wherever you're at. We're able to meet you there and grow with you as you do if you want to grow. Also, our tech stack is nothing proprietary, which might not seem like a benefit, but it is because using third party items or item like even though AdvicePay, yes, we were part of the founding of that, or Alan and Michael were, that it's not proprietary and not closed here. When you join, we're able to migrate your data to your new instance there, and then it belongs to you, can migrate right back out if you do ever need to leave Sapphire. So you're able to use a great technology that is helpful for your firm and then take it with you when you leave if you need to leave. So there's no paying for your data or fighting for your data at any point because it was in a proprietary tech stack. Also, the transparent pricing. We really created the pricing structure that we did for a reason, so that was very straightforward, and that there was no fees underlying. There's not a lot of line items where something could get you, so you can trust in the fees that we have, and that we made it simple and straightforward for a reason for you as well. Okay, so how to decide if it's the right time? Of course, this is such a personal decision, but we see several junctures for folks. So, launching a new firm, especially if you've been at an RIA and maybe you have experience, but not necessarily like a book of business to bring, and you are thinking like, I don't want or if you've had a role where you've been in charge of compliance, you're like, I know I don't want that. I know I don't want to spend my time on the entrepreneurial admin that comes with owning a firm. And so this gives you the option to join us and focus on the pieces that you love, and scale maybe more quickly than you could if you were responsible for everything. So just makes it easier to hit the ground running if you are launching a new firm. Also, if you're growing an existing firm, definitely a capacity crossroads conversation for folks that they just reach a point where they can't continue to scale by themselves. And so then trying to imagine, hiring someone who can do all of these different pieces, like billing and back office and investment management and compliance. Those are all very different skill sets. So trying to get one person to do that for $100,000 even, probably not possible. So wanting to be able to outsource items of their firm so that they can continue to bring on new clients and reach their long-term goals for what their firm looks like. So definitely a great option versus not having to hire someone. And then maybe you're already tucked under an RIA or affiliated with an RIA and just realizing that it might not be the right fit for some reason. So that can be compensation or even, if you're paying 50 basis points for on every percent, like that it can be expensive and maybe you don't understand the value or it doesn't feel like you're getting the right amount of value for that, or if they've got expectations of you of how quickly you grow, or maybe they also require you to sell insurance. Like there's lots of reasons of why you might start to evaluate where you're at. Or if they're nickel and diming you for technology, especially as you add employees, if you have to pay for a whole nother seat for each item of technology, that can get expensive really fast. So there's lots of reasons to look at what your current offering is and decide like if it's still serving you. So that's really why folks come to us. Many other reasons too, but these are the three main ones. Is just deciding, really why do you want to be in business and what do you want to do with your time? I think we all get to a point in our lives, like I was thinking about, we're planning to move again this summer and we'll need to paint the house. And like there was a point in my life where I would have bought all the paint stuff and painted everything, no matter the amount of time that it took by myself or with my husband, because I didn't want, the money to me mattered more than my time. But that was before kids, as before I was working full time. Like those things very much change of like now my time is better used, with my family, and I'm willing to pay someone to offload that headache so that I can do what I love more. So I think that's just a big question to ask yourself as you're thinking about coming to Sapphire, is, what do you want to do with your time? How is your time best spent and what do you love? And if it's not these other pieces and you're willing to invest a little bit in your happiness and your success from that monetary standpoint, then it's a good question to hone in on for yourself. Okay, so actually, I'm going to back up just a second. One thing that I want to say, I should have put a slide in here for this, so my apologies of what's not included in Sapphire. So what don't we include? I making it sound like we've got everything, but there are some things that we don't. Really, it's around front office support. So if you are looking for someone to join your meetings to take notes or to put data into your financial planning tool or to schedule meetings, to answer the phone every time, that is not Sapphire. Anything that's paraplanning, CSA related, that's really front office, we would not do that. We do not do that. And yet, maybe, who knows if that would come to us down the road, but right now it's not within our capacity. So just want to be really clear about that so that we set up expectations from the beginning there. Okay, so if the stars have aligned and you've decided that you want to join Sapphire, let's go. We're gonna go this way first, then we'll go back to that slide. So the first step into thinking about Sapphire is to meet with me. So we'll do an intro call. It's gonna look a lot like this, but we can get more in depth about your specific situation and decide, make sure that you're a mutual fit. Also, if you have, lots of questions about compliance or it's important you to meet Andrew, the Director of Investment Services, then we can get you in front of anyone on the team that you want to pick their brain on. Ultimately, want to make sure that we align with what you want to build so we can help you build that successfully. So we're going to do that together. Get all your questions answered because we want you to be as prepared and ready for onboarding as possible. So really, I said intro call, but it could be multiple calls. It usually is with me or with the team just to make sure that you are fully prepared to join Sapphire. Once you've decided that, yes, I want to move forward, then we're going to select your onboarding date. So, what's different from Sapphire than Emerald is that we generally only take about 2 to 4 advisors a month, depending on the complexity of their transition. We want to make sure that everyone has a really great experience as they onboard. And so, to do that, we do need to pace advisor onboardings. So, we'll find a date that's going to work for you and for us. And then you're going to apply for membership. So that application is going to be basic information about you and your firm. You'll sign our membership agreement, you'll sign a data attestation, you'll sign our independent contractor agreement, and then a fiduciary oath. And then you'll submit that. It won't get approved because that does incur billing then. So it just is going to hang out for a minute and you'll submit a $1,500 non-refundable deposit. That does apply towards your first month of membership then, as long as you actually do join on the date that you and I decided on together. Once you onboard, then we have a dedicated transition and onboarding team. The day that we decided would be the start of your onboarding, I approve your application, and then we kick off onboarding. So you're going to submit forms around your technology that you want to choose. You'll give us your logo and your brand identity so we can white label it. Tell us your fee structure and service model so we can work on your client agreement. And then you'll submit information where we can start on affiliation, including a background check. So in general, it's about 6 to 10 business days from the day that your application is approved and you join to when you're ready to accept clients. So that on that, we'll just say in general, 10th business day, then we're ready. Either if you're starting from scratch, then you're ready to start bringing folks on. If you're transitioning a book of business, then we talk through like, is it going to be a drip transition or an in bulk one? And usually after that 2 week mark, then is when we're ready to start getting your folks over to Sapphire. I'm going to go back to this. So then what can I be working on? So if you're thinking Sapphire might be right for you, then of course, have that conversation with me. And then between that conversation and when you onboard, you'll want to lock in your firm name and your legal entity. You'll want to get your logo, and brand identity nailed down. You'll want to start on your website. Of course, it can't be live if you're not registered currently until you are affiliated. So, but you can get going on it with a developer if you're going to hire that out. You want to get your business email ready to go. We recommend either the G Suite or Microsoft 365 options. They just integrate best with the broader tech stack and with Hadrius. And then, of course, review any non-compete or non-solicit agreements. Always good practice to run those by counsel and make sure that you're able to transition and bring clients with you if you're able to. So run those by an attorney so you make sure you understand those completely. Okay, we got a couple of questions. So, at what point do you see being part of Sapphire makes sense? For example, would it work well for someone starting out brand new with no AUM or clients versus someone with 5 million AUM, 10 million AUM, etc.? So that is a nuanced question. I would say that if you are a career changer with no experience coming to Sapphire with zero AUM, that is a difficult transition because the Sapphire, yes, we have the infrastructure with how to support your business back office, but we can't teach you how to be a financial advisor. So it's not a place to get experience. We're not going to teach you how to build a financial plan, and we're not going to teach you how to open an account or what information. You're responsible for having that experience. So there are, of course, exceptions to that. But in general, I would say, having experience as a financial advisor or in the industry is important for being a good fit for Sapphire. And then, but the starting from scratch piece, it really comes down to your runway and your expectations around business development. So if you are not bringing a book of business and you are comfortable with that 1,500 a month coming out every month, and knowing that once you do start bringing in revenue, we're going to take 20% of that pie. It might just be more of a runway for you, depending on, your situation with your family, if that's there. So having maybe a little bit more of a buffer to give yourself an opportunity to succeed. If business development, client acquisition is the thing you're worst at and the most scared of, starting from scratch is probably going to be tough. Of course, you can get training around that from outside sources. Nancy Blakey offers like a sales session. There's ways to hone in or to build up that skill, but that would be harder for you, of course, if that's something that or if you don't have any experience with business development. You just got to think about the money coming in and coming out, and how to give yourself plenty of runway. So if you bring 5 to 10 million, makes your life a little bit easier because you have that revenue coming in right away. So just offers a little bit of cushion as you're trying to give yourself grace as you launch your business. So it was a very straightforward answer, but I think about your finances first and foremost, in wanting to have, the time that it takes to build a business. Then next question, on the transition side, if I'm at LPL, is there a lot of support on opening new accounts to transfers from LPL to Schwab? That part is scary. Yes, so we have a ton of support in terms of the repapering. So as part of our transition and onboarding service, we will transition all of your clients for you. So if they are currently at Schwab, we would do the LPOA, the client agreement and disclosures as necessary. Send that out, DocuSign, to work on those, getting those accounts transitioned. If you add another custodian, depending on the volume of your transition, both AUM and account numbers, it might just be the transition team that does all of that repapering paperwork for you, or Schwab might also get involved, because they have a transition team as well that we can tap into if we need to. So all of that would be part of the support that is included with coming to Sapphire. So we will make that easy for you. So it doesn't have to be scary. Okay. So just some quick numbers on Sapphire for if anyone's here that has been following along. We started in October of 2023 with zero AUM. And now we're just over 1 billion. We did have our TAM service, but for Sapphire, now we have over 1 billion, 44 firms, 57 independent advisor representatives. So we've really grown a lot in the past few years. Our team keeps growing as well, of course, to continue to support that additional volume. And it's really been a great option for folks. We get great feedback on being part of Sapphire. And yeah, we're grateful to be able to offer this. And so I hope you'll think about being next if this could be a fit for you. We'll give it a couple minutes here for any final questions, but if you are interested in learning more and especially discussing, your individual scenario, then please book a call with me. It's very low pressure, I promise. It's zero pressure. It's just going to be information sharing about what you've got going on, what we can offer, and if we might be a good match for each other. If not, we can talk about Emerald as well. If owning your own firm, registering your own firm with your state or with the SEC might be a good fit. So we can just figure out if XYPN can help. We do have lots of options to see if we can work together. Oh, one last question. Which version of eMoney is included in Sapphire? It's Pro, eMoney Pro. So the middle tier is included. Okay. So book that call. I'm sure Maddie also put my email in there. If a call feels like too much, then you're welcome to email me with questions. I'm also happy to visit that way. So email me, call me, write me if you want. 24 East Main in Bozeman, Montana, 59715 if you want to send me a postcard. We'd love to hear what you got going on and if we can help. And then don't forget also to fill out that survey when you leave the webinar today and tell us how you did. So I think that's it. I'm going to check last for any questions. I don't see any. I think that's it. Thank you everyone for your time today. I hope you'll visit with me and I really appreciate you being here. Thanks everyone.